All right, I just want to preface this video by saying that I have friends and family who are voting for Trump or who have voted for Trump, and that doesn't mean I don't love them. And although a lot of the things that I will say in this video, I assume will be offensive, at least to some people, what I'm not saying that just because somebody supports Trump, they're a bad person. Actually, what I'm trying to expose here is sort of the fact that we've got a front row seat to how somebody like Adolf Hitler was elected um, back in his time in Nazi Germany. Um, I feel like often people don't understand how something like that could happen. And I think we actually, like I said, we've got a front row seat to it right now. You can actually see how it happened because we have something very similar happening right now, unfortunately. And hopefully Trump doesn't get elected. But the fact that it's a close election, that's enough to still expose that we are experiencing that phenomenon. The other thing I want to say is I didn't originally plan to make this video that I would upload anywhere but Snapchat. And had I planned a little bit better, the video wouldn't be quite so choppy. I apologize for that. Hey, I hope everybody's doing all right tonight. Doing something I don't normally do. I pretty much never do any stories with Snapchat, and it's not really my style. And I think I only have maybe 3 or 4 people who I'm friends with on Snapchat who might even see this video. Some of you, this video, you're probably just going to end up agreeing with me flat out. Then others of you are going to disagree. Hopefully, we can disagree civilly, but that's kind of what this video is about, a little bit about that. By the way, I'm wearing my reading glasses because I have some notes here that I'm just going to kind of read along to hopefully make this not such a disheveled rambling. But if I do ramble, I apologize. I do think this is important, and I hope that everyone watches and listens to the end. Those of you who know me know that I'm passionate about my country, about my family, about not just my family, but all Americans in the past when it comes to political divide. Um, of course, I've always been on one side. With very rare exception, there have been a couple times that I've voted across the party line, so to speak, and I try to take what politicians say seriously. And sometimes the other side has some good points, but that's not the case uh, this year, 2024, with our presidential election. And so, kind of how I want to start is to just talk a little bit about Adolf Hitler. Um, when you meet somebody today and you talk about Nazi Germany, most people can't imagine a society where somebody like Adolf Hitler could be elected. I mean, that's the benefit of hindsight, right? Hindsight's 2020. We know that he was an evil person, and you're hard pressed to find anybody who's going to say, no, actually Hitler, he was okay. Most people are going to say that was just a bad dude. I don't know why anybody could ever vote for him. But how is that relevant here? Um, because I do believe that this election is showing, it's proving that actually we would have elected Hitler. So anybody who is thinking about voting or who already has voted perhaps for Donald Trump, I got bad news for you. You would have elected Hitler. You probably don't like hearing that. And I'm not trying to make a dig at anyone. I'm not trying to insult anyone. But the simple fact is, if you think that supporting Donald Trump makes sense, you would have thought that voting for Hitler made sense. If you were in 1930s Germany, given the option to vote for Hitler or not, you would have voted for Hitler. All right, now think about that for a second. This is not saying that Trump is Hitler. There are some key differences, but there is really no reason that anybody should vote for Donald Trump. Now, I'm going to get to my reasons why, but I want to point out Donald Trump adores autocrats. Look at the way that he talks about Vladimir Putin. I mean, there's that famous picture of him meeting with Vladimir Putin, and Putin has the biggest smile on his face. Never seen the guy smile before, ever. But he was smiling then. Why? Because he knows that he can manipulate Trump. He knows that all he has to do is butter Trump up, and he's going to get something out of it. Same thing with Kim Jong-un. You know, they had their whole big peace summit, blah, 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 whatever. I really wish nothing but unity for the Korean people, North and South. They love each other, and I would love to see that country come together in my lifetime. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I can tell you Kim Jong-un was playing Donald Trump for a fool. All right. You've got the same thing with Viktor Orban, the prime minister, I believe, or president, forgive me, of Hungary. He's not a good person, but Donald Trump loves him. Why does he love these people? And by the way, Donald Trump would have loved Hitler too. Why? Because Donald Trump loves the idea of somebody having that amount of power concentrated in a way such that they can get away with shooting somebody in the middle of Times Square and not be arrested or prosecuted. Okay, so that's kind of what Donald Trump admires. He wishes that he could be like that. So what was going on between Putin and Trump in that photo where Putin is smiling? A lot of quid pro quo. Putin knows if I do these little things for Trump, then Trump's going to do something for me. And Trump is not very intelligent, so he doesn't realize that he's actually going to be getting the shaft. We see this in Donald Trump's entire lifetime. He was a failed businessman. He somehow bankrupted a casino. I'm not sure how that happens. There have been countless things that Trump has failed at. Trump Steaks, as another example. He's had all sorts of merchandise. The one thing that he finally found a way to get a foothold is by taking advantage of our democracy, which unfortunately, just by design, divides the country in two. And as long as you can convince people that you should be the leader of one of those halves, they may just follow. Now, I don't think that the Democrats would do the same, to be perfectly honest with you. The Republicans kind of are unique in a way that they are loyal to a fault. So once they've decided to follow someone, they will follow that person to the end. There are some times when that can be a good thing, don't get me wrong. But when you allow yourself to be duped by somebody like Donald Trump, and again, I'll get to the bad things that he does, but when you allow yourself to be duped by somebody like that, and then you just follow them blindly because you've sort of made this investment, and well, I can't go back on that. It would reflect poorly on my character if I don't stick with this person to the end. Sometimes you don't think about things critically. So moving on, let's just talk about policy. Sometimes people say, look past the character, look at his policies. All right, we're going to talk about his character a little bit more, but let's talk about his policy for just a second. His economic plan of putting tariffs on imports, what's going to happen with that is the consumers, me and you, are going to pay the price. A tariff like what Trump is talking about doing to fund these programs that he's got ideas for. I'm not too close to the camera. He's got these ideas for these plans. If he really does try to fund those ideas through tariffs, that's going to result in something like a 20% sales tax, effectively. What's wrong with that? Well, sales taxes favor the wealthy. How is that so? If I barely make enough money to buy food, to pay rent, to pay my bills, then when I have to pay another 20% just on a sales tax, I no longer make enough money just to live. Okay? Whereas somebody who's wealthy and has a lot of disposable income, if their sales tax goes up, it just means that they're buying fewer toys. And everybody who I know on Snapchat falls into that category of that sales tax is going to hurt you a lot more than it'll help you. So, I mean, that's just looking at the policy. Looking at the policy. disastrous. All right, let's talk about immigration. It's not a problem. It's not. Crime rates among immigrants, legal or illegal, either way, are consistently lower than crime rates among U.S. citizens. That's just how it is because people who are here, whether it's legally or illegally, if they're here legally and they commit crimes, there's a chance that they're not going to be here much longer. They're going to get deported. If they're here illegally and they commit crimes, they're going to be deported. I mean, that's just drawing attention to them. That's like a who wears a bell around their neck and tries to sneak around like a cat burglar or something. I mean, you're going to draw negative attention to yourself if you do something like that. So there's an incentive for all immigrants, legal or illegal, to not break the law. Now that doesn't mean that none of them break the law. Of course some do. But why else isn't immigration a problem? Because attracting immigrants to our country actually is one of the biggest, not biggest, but it's a very important factor in our workforce. A lot of immigrant labor is actually what drives our economy. So I say we should be letting more people in as much as we can, as long as we can properly vet them. I wouldn't go for a completely open border, but I would say we should be promoting people coming to our country to join us. Really, and I welcome them with open arms. And in fact, most immigrants are just people like you and me. They're just looking for a better life. That's all. So immigration, not a problem. It's a scapegoat, okay? Which this is one of those comparisons between Trump and Hitler. No analogy is ever perfect. Not saying it's the exact same thing, but Trump blames immigrants for a lot of problems in the same way that Hitler blamed Jews, gays, people of a different political party. What a surprise. Trump actually does exactly that. The enemy from within that Trump is always talking about, that's what Hitler always talked about. Trump is actually, he's purported to have talked highly of Hitler and of his generals, at least one of whom, tried to kill him, by the way, because even Hitler's own generals recognized the evil in Hitler, okay? But what Trump is trying to do right now, if he gets another term, he is going to get rid of the establishment that sort of kept those guardrails up during his first term and prevented him from doing a lot worse things. The reason that his first term wasn't a huge disaster and was just a pretty big disaster is because of the establishment figures who recognized the danger in what Trump was trying to do. Now, if he gets a second term, he is stacking the people around him. He's making sure that everybody's a loyalist. Look at Vance. That guy is just a sellout. He will just do whatever Trump tells him to do. If Vance would have been vice president on January 6th, he would not have certified the results of the election. We would have had a constitutional crisis, and we would have quite possibly either gone into a civil war at that time, or we would have been set on the path for a civil war. No turning back. That would have just been it. I apologize. I'm getting messages right now. I should have silenced my phone. The next time that the video breaks, I'll go ahead and do that. So Vance, he's a shadow for Trump. He's going to follow Trump wherever he goes. He's going to do whatever Trump tells him to do. He's not going to uphold the Constitution. He's not going to respect our country and what it stands for. He just wants to do whatever Trump tells him to do. Because Vance has also recognized that, hey, there's this quid pro quo going on with Trump. That's a common theme here. You're going to see that thread throughout. Vance realizes if I do what Trump asks me, then I'm going to get some kind of favor. I'm going to get some kind of payback in the end. And, everybody is susceptible to that. They say power corrupts absolutely. Whenever somebody gains power, there's that chance for corruption. And it's just the case here. It's that exact case here that Vance's only interest is in himself. He doesn't care about our country. He doesn't care about the everybody in the United States. He just cares about making Trump happy because of what Trump might do for him. All right. So we've talked about the economic plan. We've talked about immigration. Let's talk about not policy. Trump will say anything to get elected. That's all that he's doing when he brings up immigration, when he brings up the Second Amendment, which is, like what the hell are you even talking about, man? When he talks about anything that he brings up, he is looking for a way to get people excited and convince them to vote for him. He doesn't care about those things. I can guarantee you, he doesn't actually care about immigration. He doesn't actually care about the Second Amendment. He just says that because he knows that's a hot button topic and he's going to get people to follow him. He's going to get people to vote for him if he acts like that's a problem, because that's what other people have decided that's what they care about. Look at abortion. He had the sole intent of getting Roe v. Wade overturned. Why? He doesn't know. He has no clue. If you actually ask him his personal views on abortion, it's totally opposite of that. But he understood that by making his stance against abortion official, that meant that he would get tremendous support, outswelling support from the Republican Party. And so, right in line with his quid pro quo, even though it wasn't something that he really believed in, he went ahead and appointed those Supreme Court justices, who he was told anyways, would overturn Roe v. Wade. And that was sort of his way of saying, you guys elected me, here you go, this is for you. Now, all that Trump really cares about is that he had power. How do we know that's all he cared about? Because he lost an election. It was a fair election. He lost it. He will not even say today that he lost it. He will not admit it. His vice president pick won't even say that Trump lost the election. Again, quid pro quo. He knows that if he says that Trump lost the election, Trump will drop him like that if he can. I mean, you look at what happened to Jeff Sessions. So he's just gonna say whatever he thinks will get people to vote for him, and he's found this way to sort of tap into this macho male electorate. Hulk Hogan, give me a fucking break. I can't believe that guy. Sorry for cussing. I should try to cut down on that. He's just trying to reach out to people who he thinks he can excite and people who he can get to go to the polls to vote for him. He doesn't believe in all that stuff. Now, I do think, I suppose I should say, Trump has been involved in entertainment and wrestling for several decades, and I think that he does enjoy sort of the showmanship of professional wrestling and, this idea of getting out in front of a crowd of people and getting them to all cheer for him. I do think that's genuine. So he probably really does like Hulk Hogan. But what he's really trying to do is he's trying to tap into these male voters, particularly young male voters, who he thinks are going to propel him to victory. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about Trump's character. Look past the character, look at his policy. Now let's talk about his character, okay? Because his policy is shit. Let's be honest. I just said I should work on the cussing, and whatever. His policy is crap, okay? His policies are proven to fail. It's all about quid pro quo. It's got nothing to do about sensible policy, nothing to do about governing a country, everything to do about consolidating power so that he has it all right? And his character has been to divide the country. He hates America. Trump hates America. If you're voting for Trump, you're voting for somebody who hates this country. He wants to throw journalists in jail because they disagree with him. He wants to throw politicians in jail because they caught him breaking the law. He wants to throw people, citizens in jail if they speak out against him. This is exactly what happened in fascist Italy. This is exactly what happened in Nazi Germany. This is what happened, okay? Read the history books. There is no good reason to throw journalists, independent journalists, in jail. He doesn't like what they have to say about him. He doesn't like when they see through his crap and they call him out on his BS. He can't stand it when somebody embarrasses him. And so he does the same thing that Hitler and Mussolini and Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin and Viktor Orban, the same thing that they do. If you disagree with me, I'm going to make you pay. This is a bad person. There is no reason that we should be having a close election like this. And I really genuinely wish the Republicans had nominated just about anyone else. Just about anyone else. I wouldn't make this video had that been the case. By and large, my whole life that I've been interested in politics, it's been true to say, well, whether you vote for Republican or Democrat, you're kind of getting, two sides of the same coin. It doesn't make that big of a difference. By and large, that has been mostly true. I've been political for a long time, and I've been on one side of that. But it would have been hard for me to argue against this idea that it's two sides of the same coin. Not here. Not now. This is not two sides of the same coin. You have somebody who hates this country. If you threaten to put in jail half of the country, roughly, you don't love the country. That's not a problem with the country. It's a problem with you. That is your problem. Trump stole documents, top secret documents, stored them in his bathroom in his Mar-a-Lago resort. Remember that quid pro quo, that comment thread? Why do you think he took those documents? Why do you think he was keeping them in his bathroom? What do you think was going on there? Do you think that it was innocent? You think he's just a klepto? Maybe the guy just, holds on to things like the same way that, when I go to the bank and there's a nice pen, if it's not hooked up to a chain, I'm going to take the pen because I like it. No. He did it because he knew there was value in those documents. He knew he could get something from somebody else at some time. This is someone who hates this country. He's not a patriot. He says he's a patriot because he'll say anything to get elected. He's not a patriot. He hates this country. And even if you're supporting him now, there very likely will come a time when either you will be blind with loyalty or you're going to come to the realization that it was a massive mistake to have supported him. Trump loves money. He loves power. He's a threat to our democracy. Several of his advisors, including John Kelly, his longest, he was Trump's longest serving chief of staff. Do you remember the turnover in Trump's cabinet? Oh my God, it was like every other week somebody was getting fired. Why? Because the establishment people were stopping Trump from doing bad things. Truly bad things. And Trump didn't like it. He would get rid of them. John Kelly, his longest serving chief of staff, has even said, look, this guy is a fascist. Don't vote for him. Many of Trump's advisors, people who were close to him and saw how he was in his first term, are just, they're warning people. You cannot let him get elected again. It will be bad for our country. And I'm not kidding you. He loves money and power so much. If he gets in the White House again, if he's successful, surrounding himself with loyalists, we will have a constitutional crisis before the 2028 election. You can take that to the bank. He is going to do whatever he can to cling to power. If he can't stay in power himself, he's going to put someone in power who he thinks should be in power. And one of the worst things is, we as a country are going to pay. We're going to pay. Even if he fails at all of that, we're still going to pay. because of the way that Trump divides the country, because he clings to that power, because he loves that power. He is not a benevolent person. He's not a good person. He's not going to say, "Okay, you elected me. All right, we'll stop all that rhetoric about journalists in jail and, you know, immigration being a problem and all that stuff. We're just going to, you know, run a country." That's not his style. It was clear in his first term. That's not his style. That's not what he's all about. And he's not going to change. And if his mental state is deteriorating, as it seems like it might be, there's a chance that it's going to get a lot worse. Now, I would hope that if his mental state is deteriorating, that he won't be capable of doing anything else. But then what? Then what? He's building a culture. Vance and anybody else who he chooses to be in his cabinet, all of his staff, if Trump falls, there's going to be a scramble to get that crown. And they're going to be bad people just like Trump. And it's not going to get better. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. Look at what happened on January 6th. One of the most difficult things to comprehend. He lost an election, okay? When you lose, you lose. I understand challenging the results back in November. A lot of those races were close, and I get it. You know, you want to make sure that you leave no stone unturned. But he lost something like, I think he had 93 lawsuits, and he lost all but one or two of them. And the ones that he lost were basically just saying that votes that were postmarked by Election Day but came in later than Election Day couldn't be counted. And it didn't matter. He still lost. He couldn't admit it. I sincerely believe he wanted to walk to the Capitol on January 6th with the protesters. He wanted to tear that place down. When he heard that Mike Pence had to be whisked off to safety, so what? So what? That's what he said. So what? He hated Pence. Pence, much as I disagree with him on a lot, but Pence is all about banning abortion, for instance. But he loves this country. I disagree with Pence on some fundamental issues, but he's a patriot. He's a hero. Speaking of heroes, let's not even talk about the way that Trump has disparaged our veterans, prisoners of war, people who put their life on the line in service of this country. Some of the most selfless people you could ever meet. John McCain, another person I disagreed with a lot, but he was a patriot. How many Marines has Trump dissed? He didn't want to go to Belleau Wood because he didn't want to go to a cemetery full of losers. That's Belleau Wood. That's where Marines earned the nickname Teufelhunden, devil dogs. He wouldn't even visit the cemetery. Didn't matter to him. What was he going to get out of it? What's the quid pro quo there? There is none. So I'll end the way I started. If you are planning to vote for or have voted for Trump, you would have voted for Hitler.